Well, glory be, mercy me, we've done it yet again. Here we are in the graveyard, walking about. Today, I would like to talk about Canada's housing crisis. I'm seeing more and more people are writing about how there's a housing crisis. Have you noticed? Right? Prices are going through the roof. Things are getting absolutely insane. People are throwing their chips in together in the pale hope that they'll be able to afford a house. All of this kind of stuff over and over again. I'm seeing story after story after story. And even the people who are the most firmly stated in we've got to do something about this housing crisis, well, their solutions are things like, let's do a 1% tax on speculative investment. That's not going to work. None of that is going to work. You could put the speculative tax at 100%, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work for very clear and obvious reasons. And those clear and obvious reasons are as simple as, if you have $1 billion and there's nothing left to buy in the society, then it doesn't matter if the house costs $1 million, $2 million, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 100 million, doesn't matter. If you have nothing else to buy, nowhere else to put your money, you're going to do that, right? And what's going to happen if you put a tax on a house, right? Well, it's not the wealthy, it's not the person who bought the house that's going to pay that tax. They are going to take the money they lose on the tax and they're going to tack it onto the sale price, right? And they're going to pass that along. So once again, the house stays within the higher upper echelon of the rich as they play this game where they buy up all our property. This is why it is fundamentally wrong, morally, ethically, and even just utilitarianly, blah, 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 blah. Even by utility, it's incorrect to create a housing market, because eventually all of the housing gets bought up by a couple of people, perhaps even one person, who hoards it for themselves. You have one person that owns a bunch of empty properties that they're just using as a way to store their money, essentially. Right? Play one game of Monopoly. Go play one game of Monopoly, you will witness exactly what we are talking about in real time, right? Eventually one person just gets all the property and gets all the housing. Are they using it? Is it important for them? Not at all. They've got it though. Boy, howdy, do they have it. So, well, I hear you say, well, Jonathan, you're speaking with authority on this subject, like you know what's going on. Well, what's your idea to solve this housing crisis? It's actually quite simple, right? What you need to do is you need to look at countries who have already resolved this issue, right? There are countries out in the world that have reduced their homelessness problem. Some have eliminated their homelessness problem, right? The poverty reduction strategies are working. It is as simple as this. We have an institution here in Canada called Service Canada, right? You've all been to Service Canada. It's where you get all your documents, your passports, your social insurance number, right? Everybody loves doing it and dreads doing it at the same time, right? You go in, get your passport. All of these documentation that you need comes from Service Canada. Well, what you do is you set up one of those wickets and somebody walks in the front door and says, "Hello there. I do not have a house. I do not have a place to live." And the person at the wicket at the Service Canada goes, "Please fill this form out." They do so. They take the form, right? Service Canada takes the form, goes to the person who has 1,000 houses, right? Goes to the person who has a bunch of houses that they're not using, that are empty, and we know they're empty because we do a census, right? And we say, hey, this house is going to be transferred to this person, right? And if the person with 1,000 houses says, well, I don't think I like that idea, we say, shut up. And the story ends. And it's that easy. And it is that easy, right? We could solve this housing crisis in a day if we wanted to. We choose not to, though, because the man with 1,000 houses needs to have 1,000 houses because he earned it. Oh, he earned it. That's how it works. It's not the systemic transfer of wealth from one class of citizenry to another. Oh no, it's he worked hard by making all the other people do all the work for him while he sits around doing nothing. And then, of course, I hear people say, oh, John, if you do such a thing, won't that collapse the rental market? Won't renters be able to just go and say, hey, I don't have a house. Can I have a house? Well, yeah, I don't care about your market, right? When's it going to settle into people's minds? We are commodifying our survival. We are saying to our citizenry, you have to prove to a rapacious group of psychopaths that you have the right to survive. We're commodifying our survival, and the people who we have to pay fealty to or ask permission as to whether or not we survive are psychotic. They have made it very clear to us that they do not care about us. They've made it very clear to us that they are willing to abandon us at the drop of a hat. They have made it very clear to us that they are trying to kill us for money. What more evidence do you need than this pandemic? What more evidence do you need? And so, yes, my idea would absolutely destroy the rental market. Oh, John, wouldn't it destroy the housing market? Yes, it would. And guess what? I don't care. That's like telling me, like, well, Harry Potter can't shoot magic at Voldemort. He'll kill him. Yeah, that's the idea. The system that we live in is evil. It should be destroyed, and it can be destroyed. It can be destroyed easily through easy mechanisms, through simple decision-making processes by using systems that already exist. We could do it and it would take no time at all. Oh no, the rich people, who cares? Who cares at all about these rich people? They've gone psychotic. They don't care about anyone but themselves. They're very explicit about that. They're very open about that. And this speaks to the, in my view, desperately evil conversation we are having in our society. Because we are no longer interested in having a conversation about how does everyone get food and shelter, right? Which, that would be a legitimate conversation. I could see a conservative position on, well, everyone should have food and shelter, and a good way of doing that is by creating a market that blah-de-blah-de-blah, right? But that's not the conversation we're having. In fact, the conversation we're having is, should everyone have food and shelter? And that there are huge segments of the society, conservatives and most of the liberals, walking around saying, no, people should not have food and shelter. People should be homeless. People should be desperate. People should live in poverty. And if they are homeless, and if they are living in poverty, it's their own fault because they didn't sell themselves to a group of rapacious sociopaths good enough. They didn't get the right education. They didn't get the right skill set and all of this other absolutely asinine delusional nonsense that has allowed upwards of 50% of our society to accept the idea that people should be homeless, that people should live on the streets, that people should be struggling to find food while we throw food away and while people sit on empty houses. It's shameful. We're a shameful society. The people who believe that their fellow Canadian citizens, their brothers and their sisters, should live in the streets because they didn't, quote unquote, earn it good enough, which is essentially saying they didn't sell themselves to psychopaths effectively enough in a system that eventually abandons everyone. Again, play one game of Monopoly, kids. We are living in a society that has gone psychotic and has been captured by a mass hysteria. We are not even interested in discussing how to solve these problems. We are discussing whether or not we should solve these problems. It is the reason why our society is in decay. It is the reason why we are falling behind. It is the reason why we are going to collapse into internal turmoil and struggle, because the central antagonisms that exist between the ownership class and the working class eventually reach a head, and that is occurring structurally. Our society is built to fight. And a good man once said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." And so we, on the left, need to confront the psychopath class, need to organize the left together and surround the halls of power, because they've abandoned us. And so it's time for us to abandon them back. Well, if you've reached this point, guys, please like, please share, please subscribe. YouTube throttles me. They don't send my videos around, so if you don't share it, no one sees it. My Patreon down below. We got to support leftist voices, guys. If we don't support leftist voices, then we're ceding this territory to the far right, right? The far right fascists are getting seats at the table, right? They're getting interviews. They're getting to sit on the panels, all of this. Are communists? Is the idea that we just give people houses even being talked about at all? No? Oh, but the idea of abandoning people because they didn't earn it sure gets talked about all the time. So if you don't support voices like mine, they don't get heard. It is as simple as that. And that is the goal of the capitalist death cult. Always remember, guys, you are a quantum being living in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the pale hope that you won't realize it. Because if you do, you're going to be a lot harder to enslave, which is their goal. Revolt. Rebel, repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.